Royal Talens have been super generous in sending me this amazing palette. So we're going to take a close look at this. It is a set of 12 colors and it's their Rembrandt range, which is their professional range. And it comes in this amazing, pretty sturdy box with a sleeve with all the information about the palette. It's called the Luxury Pocket Box and it has the 12 colors here. We'll go through what the colors are in a moment, but I just want to show you what this looks like first. And it comes in a case like this. It is a plastic case. It's pretty compact and it has 12 colors and a sable brush, tiny sable brush. That's amazing that they managed to fit a pretty good size brush in there. It says Rembrandt 110 pure red sable royal talons, so it's a proper sable brush and that goes in there. And then we have 5 wells for mixing in, 1 large one and 4 smaller ones. And just to show you the back of it, it's just plain black. It's pretty thin and it will fit on the palm of your hand. I have average size hand for a lady, I would say, and it fits quite nicely onto the palm of my hand. It's pretty easy to open. Now I am going to unwrap this and test the paints out for you and I will be back with all the swatches. The colors are all dry and this is the little color tests for you of the 12 colors that are in this palette. And I'm not going to go through into details of each color. I will upload these test sheets. I will upload high-res scans of these test sheets so you can check them out in your own time. I've commented on them so that you can see like low tint, high tint, what kind of opacity I think it is staining, whether it's good for glazing and stuff. All that information is there. I will put it up there so you can check it out for yourself, because I think if I go into each of the colors, then this video is going to be really long. But I wanted to instead talk about what I look for in a travel palette or any kind of palette that companies put out. And one of the first things that I always look out for is to make sure that they have the split primary colors. And if you don't know what a split primary color is, I have a video for you that I will link up here that explains it and why it's important. In brief, split primaries are a set of 6 colors. They can be grouped into 2 sets of primary colors. The cooler primary colors are usually yellow, magenta, and cyan. And then you have the warmer primary colors, which are usually yellow, red, and blue. To me, that is the most important thing in a travel palette, because if you have those 6 colors, you can create any colors, and all the other colors are just convenient colors that are already pre-mixed for you. But if you don't have those 6 colors, you're not gonna get a good control on how bright your color mixes are gonna be, which I will talk about later. But for now, just know that it's really important in how flexible this palette can be. This palette does have the split primary colors. We have the cool yellow and the warm yellow. We have the warm red, the magenta. The ultramarine deep is the warm blue, and then cerulean blue is the cool blue or the cyan. So that's great that it has the split primaries. And then you want to think about what is the palette for. And obviously a travel palette is usually going to be used in plein air paintings. So you want colors that you use a lot in landscape paintings. And I think this does have that. It has yellow ochre, burnt sienna, and sepia. I always find it's good to have like a yellow ochre, a red brown, and a more neutralized dark brown, whether it's sepia or burnt umber. And the Payne's grey is black, or can be considered black without being black color. It has a little bit more interest, and it's definitely favored by a lot of landscape painters. And then you have 2 convenient greens so that you can make like a green as a base and then add colors to adjust, rather than having to make a green first or know how to make a green, the exact kind of green you're looking for, and then trying to make that into more muted colors. You know, that takes a lot more time, whereas having greens is very convenient. What's really interesting though is the fact that they've actually included a Viridian. Normally you get like a yellowy green and a bluey green, but there's not many sets that have genuine Viridian in the set, and I think it's a really interesting choice. I think that's really unique, and I think it's a good selling point of this palette is the fact that it has a Viridian. It's a beautiful Viridian. It's also very easy to re-wet, which I was very pleasantly surprised, because I'm used to the Holbein's Viridian, which is really hard to re-wet, but this one is really easy to re-wet. You may notice though that there is a lack of a violet purple color in here, and even the Permanent Madder Lake, it's not a very pinky kind of color. It's definitely closer to a red than a pink. So if you do use a lot of pinks and violets, then you might need to throw in a color. The great thing about this palette though is that the wells aren't clipped in, so you will be able to remove them easily. And maybe you find that you don't need one of these colors and you want to swap it out. That's going to be really easy. It was a slight problem though when I was doing a lot of painting of these test sheets with, because the paint would get soft because these colors are all really easy to re-wet. And then when I put the brush on, one of the colors lifted out of the well. So that is something you might have to be careful with, or you might have to struggle a little bit with. But it's very easy to add another color if there's a color that you don't use, and maybe throwing in a violet there. One of the things that I was really impressed with this selection of colors certainly is the fact that they all handle excess amount of water really well. There wasn't any huge cauliflowering happening anywhere. I don't think I've seen that in a brand so far. I mean, okay, this is only 12 colors. I would love to test out all the other colors to see if that's the same, but certainly for this selection of colors, I use the same amount of excess water that I would do in all the other brands, but there's just no cauliflowering. If you remember Core, love Core, but lots of cauliflowering happening, as they should, but not in this set of colors. The other thing I want you guys to notice is that there are colors that have very clear 5 stages. That means it's going to give you really good control in your gradation, which is super useful if you are painting plein air. You might be limited in time and you want to do a gradation quickly, but you want to have full control. Then these paints are great for that. I did, however, notice certainly around here where you see that when going to the next stage, this darkens, whereas this is much lighter. And you see it here as well, where this bit of stage 3 is darker than the beginning of stage 3. So that is something to just be careful of with these 2 colors, and you can see in the Permanent Madder Lake as well. But other than that, 5 layers on most of them, great water control. It can handle from beginners to professionals. If you're not confident with your water level, this is a great palette, because you can do quite a lot of water and just be loose with it and not think about too much of it, and it will still not cauliflower. Now, we talked about the split primaries, and I want to talk a little bit more about that. I want to show you guys the color ranges you can achieve with these split primary colors on top here. I also really like that the split primaries are on top, and then you have like the greens and the neutrals down here. I think that makes it really a lot easier. But there is some problem with this color selection, so let's look at that chart. This is the color chart that I did for testing out the split primaries and all the colors that you can create with the split primaries that are in this color. We have the Permanent Lemon Yellow as the cool yellow, Azo Yellow Deep as the warm yellow, the Permanent Madder Lake as the cool red or the magenta, the Permanent Red Deep for the warm, cerulean blue for the cool blue, and then ultramarine deep for the warm blue. And what I did was I mixed all the combinations of all these colors. So you see here W and C, that, you know, C obviously means the cool one and the warm one, and I tested out all the combinations you can get from just these 6 colors. On the whole, this selection of split primary is great, except for the cerulean blue. It's much more lower in tinting strengths than the other colors, and the problem with that is when you try mixing your bright greens with your cool yellow and your cool blue. So that's cerulean blue with permanent lemon yellow. You should be able to get nice strong blues, or even when you mix it with the warm, you're not getting a really strong bright green. You get nice strong bright violets here, you get nice strong oranges here. Even with like the cool yellow, you get nice strong oranges. So you're gonna get good secondary colors, except for that bright green color. And I think this is why they threw in the permanent green, and I think that was a really good option, or it was a really good decision. This is the color mixing charts for all 12 of the colors, and you see where we were just missing that green in this mixes. You get the muted greens down here and down here, and you get the light bright green, but not this green. So really good decision on their part to throw in that permanent green. There is quite a big variance in tinting strengths within this palette. You have nice high tinting strength colors like the Azo Yellow Deep, Permanent Red Deep, and a Permanent Madder Lake, but you also get really low tinting strength colors like the Cerulean Blue and the Viridian. So I definitely found that I had to pay more attention to how much of each color I mixed to get a color that honors both shades. And that might be something that you might struggle with. By the way, just so that you can see these colors on different paper, these charts were made with Bockenfoot cold press, the usual one that I always use for this test sheet. This one was made on Fabriano Academia, and then this one was made on the Saunders Waterford cold press. This is a cotton paper, this is a cellulose paper, and this is really cheap cellulose. I have to say though, it went down on cheap cellulose paper really well. So I'm very impressed with this. And you can really tell that these paints are artist quality paints rather than student quality, because it does well even on really cheap paper, and the colors are intense and just lovely to paint with. You can get some nice strong violets here with your Permanent Madder Lake. So even though the violets aren't there, it's okay, you can create more. And also, if you are going to use this as a landscape painting plein air kind of thing, then violets are probably less frequently used than the oranges and greens. So I think it's a good idea that they put 2 greens in. I personally would find it a struggle though, because I use a lot of pinks and violets in my painting, but as a plein air palette you get huge range of greens, as you can see, because you have the 2 greens as well that create various shades of green, as well as the yellow and the blue mixes. So you got a lot of choices in terms of your greens. So you get some really nice deep dark greens that you might not think about as an option, like Payne's Grey with Azo Yellow Deep is going to create a deep dark green. The colors are all beautiful mixes. I love the color mixes of the Payne's Grey, like especially this range of colors are beautiful, and even with the sepia, I think makes beautiful colors that are still vibrant. They're not flat, they're not dead like you might get if you mix it with a black paint. The Payne's Grey really keeps the color mixes vibrant for you. So what do I think of this palette? I think the color choices are pretty good. I would give the color choices 8 out of 10. the cerulean blue, I personally would have preferred a phthalo blue yellow shade or green shade kind of color, because then it mixes with the other colors better. But I also can understand why they picked a cerulean blue here, because it's a granulating color, it's a softer color, it will work really well with landscape. Do I think this is the most efficient layout for a palette? No, it's not. There's loads of space here, loads of space here, but what it does give you instead is a whole load of mixing areas. And I tested out these areas just to see what they look like, and they were great. I was worried because this is curved, and normally with curved mixing wells all the paints go to the bottom, and it's a very smooth texture, but it has a grip. That means unless you push it down, it won't move. So even though it's sloped, it's not like those metal palettes where the water droplets just slide down. You get good control on this palette. So I think you will be giving up compactness of this palette for a really good mixing well. So if you have tried travel palettes and you're like, I don't like the mixing wells, or it's not enough space to mix all my different colors, then this is a great option for you. Huge thanks to Royal Talens for sending me this Rembrandt Artist Quality palette. It's so much fun to test and review. The paints are beautiful. They are very versatile. I would recommend this for beginners as well as obviously professionals, but particularly beginners, because the paints can handle uneven water control. And like if you tend to put too much water on your brush, these paints will be able to handle that, which is a blessing if you're not confident with your water control yet. It also gives you great control in your gradating. It will do what you want it to do rather than what the paint wants it to do. So I think if you are a beginner and you want to upgrade to an artist quality paint, but you're still a little bit unsure or under practiced with different techniques, then this is a really, really good option for you. As well as any landscape plein air painters, I think you'll find this selection of colors perfectly suited to doing landscapes. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!